Hey everyone, Sean Williams here with the Williams team at Remax Premier Properties. I am joined with my team members, co-agents, rock stars out there, and we're coming to you at the beginning of September 2020. I'll say it again, it's pumpkin spice season because it's my favorite time of the year. But really what we're here to talk about is what's at the forefront of today's real estate market. Homes are selling at record pace, but people are afraid to sell their house. And kind of maybe makes you scratch your head and say, well, that doesn't make any sense. And the way it feels, so people can understand out there, is from the time I started recording this to right now, it feels like a home was listed and sold that quick. That's really what today's market feels like. So we're going to dive in and talk to the sellers out there that may be on the fence about selling, so that what their options are when it comes to selling a home and buying a home. Because the reality is when you sell, you got to move somewhere. So we want to make sure people are educated and know their options that are kind of non-traditional in today's market, because we are having to get creative. So with that being said, I'd be remiss to not give everyone a quick introduction. So I'm going to go around the table real quick and give a quick introduction to our teammates here. So first and foremost, the one that is never afraid to speak and always speaks her mind, the lovely Katie Hunley. Wave to the people out there. All right, next is the calm before the storm, but also the storm, Mr. Christopher Adams.
Hey.
And last but not least, the sunshine mixed with a little hurricane, the one and only Stephanie Shacklet. So Stephanie, I'm going to go right to you on this. I'm going to dish the ball to you. So tell the people, what are we seeing in today's market, September 2020?
Well, it is still certainly a seller's market. Like you just said, homes are selling so fast, and there is still a huge shortage of inventory. Since last year, we're down 30% and we're up buyers. So it's been very, very interesting for buyers and sellers this year. And, most of our sellers' concern is, well, yeah, I want to sell my house. I know I can get top dollar for it, but where am I going to go? I'm not going to be able to find anything if everyone else is having this much trouble.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of people may be thinking, wait, there's a global pandemic going on. What's going on with the housing market? But I think a lot of it is fueled by the fact that people are realizing, as they've stayed in their home for such a long time, I want more space, or I want a home office, or if I don't have to go into the office, then I could really live anywhere, maybe somewhere that's even a little bit cheaper. And really, with that being said, you also see how low these interest rates are, and people are wanting to take advantage of that as well and maybe get a larger home. So with that being said, there's kind of a traditional way that we would typically go about this process if you needed to sell a home in order to buy and access that equity and roll it over. Those traditional ways aren't really working today. Chris, what kind of explain people and give them the overview as to what that traditional line of thinking is and why that's not working in today's market?
Yeah, the traditional line of thinking, usually, you list your house, you sell it, and you got to move somewhere. So you're looking for a house. So all your offers are going to be contingent on the sale of your house. Well, today, you're competing against first-time homeowners who don't have a house to sell, or you're even competing against cash offers who can go thousands over asking, even with a cash offer. So you can't really put your offer in contingent on the sale of your house. It's just not going to work in today's market with how crazy it is and how short supply we are of houses.
Yeah, I mean, when we sit down with a seller that's also wanting to buy, it's kind of like, hey, sorry to break the news to you, but we're not making offers contingent on the sale and closing of your home. In rare cases, it may be possible, but 99% of the time, you're going to get beat out by the 5-10 other offers that don't have anything to sell, or maybe utilizing some of the options that we're about to dive into. So, Katie, somebody calls you up, says, hey, Katie, I saw my neighbor's house. They sold it in 2 hours for $10,000 over asking. I want to sell my house, right? I want to do that. That sounds great. What are going to be your kind of first steps to help kick off and start and navigate this process with a seller that also needs to buy?
So the first thing that I always like to do is pre-consult questions as far as how much do you still owe on your house? What are you expecting to get for your home? What kind of upgrades have you done? Because I want to know all of these things going into our meeting. Once we're at the meeting, that helps me be 100% prepared in making the right decision for me to work with them and for them to get their home listed. So go through a plan, get a market plan together, go through the stages, set a good price, because we want to make sure that the price is right. And even though it's a seller's market, doesn't mean you're going to get a million over asking. So we want to make sure that we strategize the price right so that we bring in multiple offers, formulate a game plan, and get the listing agreement signed and all the documents signed and ready to go.
Yeah, definitely. Bob Barker would be smiling in his grave right now. We want to get that price right. But the reality is it's really all about what's our game plan, and backing in to what you're going to walk away with for your home sale, right? That's going to help drive the purchase on the next end. So one thing that we take pride in on our team is being able to break down really a net sheet as to what your proceeds are going to be after you pay off your current mortgage, if there is one, and what your selling costs are. So with that being said, we're sitting down with the seller and we want to talk about some creative options, because we feel like maybe, like I said before, we're not going to make an offer contingent on the sale and closing your house. So Katie, what might be, I'm going to kick it right back to you. What might be option number one for that seller?
So actually a great option. Sean and I just recently had this where he had somebody contact him and say, hey, we're thinking about selling, but we're not really sure. Next day, they find a house on the market that they absolutely love, and it's in a hot area and it's going to go quick. I got them into the showing. They love the house. And so the question was, well, can we actually put in an offer without selling our home? So I gave them my suggested lender's contact info, and good news is they were able to actually purchase without selling their home. So we went ahead and put in an offer, got the offer accepted. And on that offer, we made a time frame, a large time frame, so that we could still bring it back to where they could list their home and get it sold and still close, and make it a very convenient process for them. Very, sell their home and move right into their next home.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of buyers are surprised that, wait, I can get approved without selling my house? Well, because interest rates are so low, it kind of changes some of those dynamics. But also, like you were saying, if you can get a seller that's willing to play ball and go with a longer closing time frame, based upon our initial research, we felt like when we go to list their house, it's going to sell relatively quick, and we can still line up the closing of the house they're selling before the closing of the home that they're buying. It is a little bit risky, but depending on their circumstances, it definitely can work. So, Stephanie, I'm going to kick it over to you. What would be option number two, possibly?
Well, another option I've done with some buyers and sellers this year has been bridge loans. A bridge loan gives you the ability to keep the house that you have and purchase another house. So you have both of them lumped into now just one payment. And while you're able to have a smooth closing, you're able to move slowly into your new house, gives you time to then list your old property, sell it, and then refinance with the house that you just purchased. This works best for people who have a little bit more equity in the house that they're already selling, or are able to put a little bit more money down on the house that they're purchasing. But it's an awesome option and can really get some deals closed.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, feels a little bit more like a temporary solution, but that beats the heck out of getting beat out every single time when you go to make offers. So, and one thing that's really nice about it is you can refinance that loan after you take the equity or proceeds from the home you sell and really pay down that principal balance for a better mortgage payment. So yeah, that's a great option. Option number three, I'm going to kick it over to you, Chris. And this may be one that I think may surprise a little bit of people, some of the listeners out there, because it's going to seem like a paradox. or kind of silly coming from a real estate agent that wants to sell homes and make commission, but this is another option. Tell the people what that might be.
Yeah, another unique option would be a short-term lease. You can look at renting for about 6 to 12 months, even 12 months. You think it's a long time, but when it comes down to looking for houses with the shortness of houses that we have, it may take you 6 months to find a house and everything. So, the short-term lease is an option, or you can ask friends and family, if they have any extra spaces, or if they even know someone who's got an extra space who would be willing to let you live there for a little bit, just so you find someplace.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it sounds silly coming from a real estate agent to rent, but renting for 6 to 12 months could be a great option and would allow you to make an offer on the home that you really want without any contingencies there. And I think the thing people need to think about is twofold. Number one, certainly friends and family is an option. It's probably going to drive you crazy a lot quicker. Maybe start drinking, possibly. I've seen that happen. But one option is maybe taking advantage of the current situation with the pandemic, right? As we all know, short-term rentals have been affected. Airbnb, VRBO, some of these properties have been sitting empty or not getting many bookings. So maybe you might be able to book a place for 30, 60, 90 days, get a great price, and have time to shop. So that's been a great option for some of our people out there. Let's see here. We're going to kick it over to Stephanie again and tell people what option number 4 might be.
Well, this is kind of piggybacking on what Chris was just talking about, but so, if you'd be selling your home before you go and look for anything else. So if you sell your home, you'll have it under contract. And then that way, when you're out shopping and putting an offer in, yes, you are still making it contingent, but you actually already have a contract on your house. And that's going to be so much more desirable for a seller to accept a contract that looks more like a done deal rather than someone who hasn't listed their house yet. They don't have photos. So they would need a little bit more time to get it ready, where you get your offer and you say, I'm ready to go. My house is already under contract. And it also gives you, if you get your house under contract, you could tell the buyers, hey, I need a longer closing. I need 60 to 90 days. That has not been a strange closing time frame in this market. People have been asking for more time so that they do have time to go out and shop for another house.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a little more traditional line of thinking, but it is possible. We'd recommend getting past that inspection period before you make that offer, because it makes it even more attractive. But yeah, certainly there are sellers that will entertain that option as well. So last but not least, I'm going to kick it over to Katie about something that sounds kind of different or goofy, or really maybe even really cool and creative, is the reverse contingency. Tell the people what that involves.
Okay, so a lot of sellers obviously have been on the fence as far as, well, I don't want to list my home because I can't find something. Or I'm scared that I'm going to sell it too quick and not find something. So something a little bit left field is called the reverse contingency, where you receive an offer on your home, you make that contingent upon you finding a home within X amount of days. So I think it puts a buyer or a seller at ease to find that next property, and gets them off the fence of, should I sell? Should I wait? And I think that, and the sellers have leverage right now. I mean, so you have that option.
Yeah, use that leverage to your advantage. I mean, the reality is the buyer has to be prepared to get the phone call that, hey, we didn't find what we wanted. Sorry, we're going to have to lose out on the house. And that's a bummer, but buyers are so hungry to find houses that they'll do whatever it takes in most circumstances. So use that leverage to your advantage as a seller. So those are all great options that we're using and employing with our clients. Obviously it's not a one size fits all. We got to find what works best for you as a seller. But with that being said, before we wrap this up, one thing I want to touch on really, really quickly, and I'll let you all kind of jump in here, is the topic of delayed possession and how that comes into play when we're talking about doing these different things.
I'll jump in. So delayed possession makes it very easy for a lot of sellers, especially if they have a lot of stuff in their house and they're worried about, well, how am I going to get from my current house to my new home in the timely manner. So delayed possession allows you to close on your current home in the morning, your new home in the afternoon, and you still retain possession for X amount of days after closing to allow you to get all of your things and move it to the new home and relieve that stress.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a value add as a seller in most circumstances when you don't have to have that U-Haul truck packed up the day of closing. Stephanie, what would be some potential drawbacks to that?
I guess really the only drawback is that, as a buyer, you don't get possession of your property the moment that you sign, and then it almost becomes like a tenant landlord situation. If you let it drag on too long, the sellers at that point, they don't own that house anymore. And, sometimes people can set up something where they charge them per day, but really what we've been seeing is buyers giving a couple extra days to those sellers so they have a smooth closing, and it makes that buyer's offer more desirable.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, there's pros and cons. Obviously the big one is just there's potential liability from both parties that could be avoided if we didn't do that. But sometimes you just got to do what's best for you. And with that being said, I mean, delayed possession, Chris, what would be a typical time frame for that?
Ideally, the time frame, 2 days, 3 days, but everyone's situation's not the same, and some people may need 6, 7 days. But I would honestly say no more than 7 days, because like you all were saying earlier, it goes to the landlord-tenant situation, and you're responsible for whatever happens to that house while you're in there for those X amount of days. So it could come back and bite you in the end if you stay 7 days versus ideally the 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, we have some sellers that say, "Oh, I'd love to have a couple weeks," but it's like, no, you're closing. Let's get this bad boy done and wrapped up in 2 to 3 days after closing, just to be safe on everyone's end. So yeah, those are some great points about delayed possession. Before I wrap this up, does anyone else have anything to throw in the mix? All right. So with that being said, we're going to take this thing home and wrap it up. Really, to all the people out there that may be thinking about selling and are scared, they're afraid of being under the gun. Where do I go? Where do I move to? But at the same time, you want to take advantage of the fact that, your home is going to sell quick, maybe for more than what it possibly could have in the past. And you want to take advantage of these incredibly low interest rates, under 3%, last I checked. So, the main thing is that you're talking with somebody that is going to be able to explore these options with you. And honestly, somebody that's going to be honest with you. We may sit down with you and say, hey, look, now is not a great time to sell. And that's important as well. I hope everyone understands that we're not here to get a quick buck, but we really want to do what's best for you. So hopefully you found this educational and helpful. Maybe it gives you more options to think creatively about finding that next perfect home, especially in a time when we're living in such craziness with this pandemic and everything going on. So hopefully you found that beneficial for you. So with that being said, the Williams team at RE/MAX is going to sign off, and hopefully you'll be hearing from us soon. Thanks again.